إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. Hadith number 47. We are on Umdatul Ahkam, Tayseer al-Allam, the explanation of Umdatul Ahkam by al-Allam al-Bassam rahimahullah ta'ala. Hadith number 47. عن أبي المنهال سيار بن سلامة قال: دخلت أنا وأبي على أبي برزة الأسلمي. He said, my father and I visited Abu Barda al-Aslami. فقال له أبي. So my father told him, كيف كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي المكتوبة? How did the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم pray the mandatory prayers? Ibn Munir, do you have the hadith? Sheikh Ibn Munir or Sheikh Ali? If you have, let me know. I will continue. 47. طيب. فقال, so he said, كان يصلي الهاجرة التي تدعونها الأولى. He used to pray the هاجرة, which you call the first. حين تدحض الشمس. ويصلي العصر ثم يرجع أحدنا إلى رحله في أقصى المدينة والشمس حية. This is the hadith.
نعم.
طيب. If you or Sheikh Ali are able to read, then go ahead. Barakallah. طيب, start reading, Sheikh Ibn Munir.
From the beginning of the hadith or important point?
From the beginning.
Important point?
From the beginning of the hadith, barakallah. Just the hadith. نعم.
الله عليكم.
وعليكم.
بسم الله والسلام على رسول الله. أما بعد. Hadith 47 from the book of Salah. From Hadith 47, Kitab al-Salah, from the book Umdatul Ahkam. Narrated Sayyar bin Salama. I, along with my father.
Bin Salama.
Salama. Allah alaykum. Narrated Sayyar bin Salama.
No,
I,
not Salama. Salama.
Salama. طيب. حسن الله عليكم. Narrated Sayyar bin Salama. I, along with my father, went to Abu Burza al-Aslami, and my father asked, how did the Prophet ﷺ used to pray the obligatory prayers? Abu Burza said, the Prophet ﷺ used to offer the Dhuhr prayer, which you people call the first one, at midday, as soon as the sun declined.
نعم. الظهر is not, you heard me reading the hadith. Al-Hajira. Al-Hajira is al-Dhuhr. And that he told them the one that you call it al-Ula, the first one. حين تدحض الشمس. تدحض with the dal in the beginning, and then dal حض with the ضاد. الشمس, meaning when it starts moving towards the east. يعني from the zenith. This is the meaning when the sun starts to decline, meaning moving towards the west, from the middle of the sky. نعم.
صلى الله عليكم. The Asr, at a time when, after the prayer, a man might go to the house of the furthest place in Al-Madinah and arrive while the sun was still hot. I forgot what he said about the Maghrib prayer. The Prophet ﷺ loved to delay the Isha, which you call the Atama.
Al-Atama.
Al-Atama, Ahsanallahu alaykum. And he disliked sleeping before it and speaking after it. After Fajr prayer, he used to depart when a man could recognize the one sitting beside him, and he used to recite between 60 to 100 ayat of the Quran in the Fajr prayer, narrated by Al-Bukhari.
أحسنت. بارك الله فيك. طيب. The Gharīb of the Hadith, al-Allama al-Bassam says, al-Maktuba, the first one, the written, salah, he says they are the 5 prayers. And what he means are the obligatory salawat, as Shaykh al-Bassam said. Number 2, al-ula. Hiya al-dhuhr. It's al-dhuhr. Why is it called the first one? Al-Allam al-Bassam says, لأنها أول صلاة أقامها جبريل للنبي عليه الصلاة والسلام. Because it's the first salah that Jibreel has made with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. تضحض الشمس, we already, number 3, تضحض الشمس, we already said, يعني the زوال تزول عن وسط السماء إلى جهة الغرب ويقال دحض برجله إذا فحص بها. So when it starts moving, يعني when it starts moving towards the west. And then he has given an example. He says, it says دحض برجله إذا فحص بها. I do not know what فحص بها means. فحص, يعني maybe if he starts يعني looking at something or moving something, Allah knows best. Number 4, maybe someone can look it up. What is meant by إذا فحص برجله? What is that meant? فحص برجله, to move something with his feet or with his foot. Is that what is meant? طيب. Number 4, والشمس حية مجاز عبر به عن نقاء بياضها والمراد بحياتها قوة أثر حرارتها وإنارتها. The Shaykh says, while the sun is alive, this is a majaz that has been used to describe its whiteness, and what is meant by its life is that it is hot and illuminating. As you know, barakallahu fikum, we take a stop here. As you know that some of the people of ilm said that there is, by the ijma' of the people of ilm, they said that there is no majaz in the names of and attributes of Allah Azza wa Jal. And the people of ilm say there is no majaz in the Quran. And some of the people of ilm said there is majaz in the language, in the Arabic language, but there is no majaz in the Quran. Why? Because when you say majaz, you're saying that this is something allegorical. This is an allegory. It's not real. And the biggest, as the ulama say, that the biggest evidence for you or sign for you that indicates that as something is allegorical, something is majaz, is that you can negate it. Is that you can negate it. So if you say, I saw a lion, I saw a lion helping the Muslims today, bringing them food, helping the Muslims that were in a catastrophe, a natural catastrophe, like an earthquake and so on. We saw a lion of a Muslim. He was helping the people and carrying them and bringing them food and talking to them and reminding them of Allah. None of you says that they actually saw a lion. So we can negate it. We can negate. We can say, no, this is not true. This is the biggest indication that this is what? Majaz, an allegory. We say, no, it's not true. Not a true lion. But what is meant is that they saw someone who's like a lion. He's courageous, he's brave, he's strong. So he was helping everybody and taking care of everybody and reminding them of Allah. And some of the people of ilm, like al-Imam al-Allama, Shaykh al-Islam, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, said there is no majaz whatsoever, neither in the Arabic language or in the Quran. There is neither majaz in the Arabic language or the Quran. And his student followed him, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala. And by Allah, he's correct. By Allah, he's correct. And I have explained this more than once, and I believe that it is that crucial for us to explain. Now, if al-Allam al-Bassam said it's majaz, maybe he's from the ulama that see there's majaz in the Arabic language or something like that. However, the correct saying is that there is no majaz. There is no majaz either in the Arabic language or in the Quran. Because nothing in the Quran you can deny. Nothing in the Quran you say it's not true. But what is it? La. That's why It is by ijma' that there is no majaz in the names and attributes of Allah Azza wa Jal. Because this is what they started using, the philosophers and the people of Kalam and so on. That they said, there's the names of Allah Azza wa Jal are majaz. They're not true. They mean so and so. And the attributes. However, we say there is no majaz in the Arabic language or in the Quran. There's no such thing as majaz. You say, how? We say, Ya akhi, when you say the sun is alive, what do you instantly understand? You understand that it did not die and that it is eating and this is what is meant by it? What do you understand? Tell me. Tell me. Extremely hot. طيب. So what you understood is reality as it is. We don't need philosophers and people who indulge in ilm al-kalam to try to make us doubt these things and fall into something that we should not fall into, which is thinking that there is such a thing as majaz. No one of the Salaf al-Salih knows what majaz is. Or do you have any of the Sahaba that came and said, oh yeah, but Allah did not mean this is majaz? This is innovated after the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum wa ardahum. And as Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala said, and Ibn al-Qayyim and others of the ulama that quote Shaykh al-Islam, that the words are only vessels for the meaning to reach you. So when the meaning reaches you, that's it. That is what is meant by words in the first place. I say, then we can deny even words themselves. If we do not understand what is meant, then we deny the words themselves and we say they are majaz and they are not. No. There's no such thing. When you understand the meaning, and this is the goal, by the way, as it is, then it is true as it is. No need to say it is majaz. No need to say such nonsense. Even if some ulama, big ulama, have said such a thing, no one is ma'soom. And as I said in the beginning, that it is a saying for some of the people of ilm. However, the correct one is Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala. If someone came and said, this town is treacherous, do you really think that when he says this town, he means that the town is a person and this person is treacherous, so be careful from the town as a person? Who understands such an understanding, ya ikhwa? Wallahi, I never understood majaz. I have never understood majaz. How can somebody understand such a thing? وَاسْأَلِ الْقَارِيَةِ, ask the village. You see some of the ulama saying, not to ask the doors and the walls, and this is majaz, meaning to ask the people. Oh, really? Who thought that I'm going to go and ask a window? La, this is from what the people of Kalam have influenced. Even some of the people that we love dearly and we honor, and we are nothing compared to them, not even to the least of their students, or the least of their students, or of their students as well. But that does not mean that we have to accept everything. And we have a salaf, alhamdulillah, in this, which is Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah or Ibn al-Qayyim, and Imam Ibn Uthaymin quotes that, and so on. And by the way, I believe Imam Ibn Uthaymin rahimahullah ta'ala in the beginning he used to say by the majaz, and then he changed. And I believe he mentioned that in the explanation on al-usul min ilm al-usul. So in al-usul min ilm al-usul, he spoke about the majaz and he used the majaz. But in the explanation of it, he said that it turned out to me that there is no such thing. After I studied the matter, there is no such a thing. So he agreed with Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala and apologized for what he said, or let's say retracted what he said, apologized in the meaning of apologetics, in the meaning that he said, oh, I said so and I shouldn't have. Anyway, so that he retracted this. and shows us the importance, barakallahu fikum, of bringing together everything that one alim said. Because someone can come and claim, Shaykh al-Allam ibn Uthaymeen said that majaz, and so yes, back in the day. But his later stand on this, which he died upon, is that there is no such thing as majaz. Understood, barakallahu fikum? So, when someone tells you the meaning of the ayah, al-Qarya, ask the village, is that you do not ask the village itself and the walls, and you say, yeah, we understand, we know. It means ask the people. طيب. So there is no such thing as majaz. Once you understand the meaning, it is real as it is. And I ask you something. If you have asked a lot of people in a certain village, do you say, well, I have asked a lot of people in this village and they have, or do you say, I asked the village and they told me so and so? I asked this village. Do we need to reach such a level? You say, I visited this country. Do you have to say, well, I didn't visit the whole country and I was in every single meter of the country? This is understood. We don't deny your visitation to the country. This is falsafa, ya ikhwa. This is falsafa. This is ilm al-kalam. There is no benefit whatsoever from such ilm. Anyway, so the Shaykh told us about al-shams, meaning that it was illuminating and having heat. طيب. العتمة. What is العتمة? العتمة ظلمة الليل حين يغيب الشفق. The عتمة is what? Is the darkness of the night when the shafaq, the twilight, is what? When the twilight goes away. I think you call it twilight. Meaning the redness that is in the sky, it disappears. So when the redness in the sky disappears, this is what? This is al-atama, the redness of the twilight that you see horizontally. When it disappears, this is called al-atama. What is meant? And he said, وَيَمْضِي مِنَ اللَّيْلِ ثُلُثُهُ, third of the night goes by, and what is meant here is the salah, prayer of the Isha. ينفتل من صلاة الغداة, meaning that he moves, ينصرف, moves towards the people that are in the congregational prayer from al-Fajr. المعنى الإجمالي, the overall meaning, the Shaykh says. Abu Burza has mentioned the timings of obligatory prayers. So he started with that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to pray al-Dhuhr, al-Hajira, which is the Dhuhr, when the sun declines, meaning starts moving towards the west. And this is the beginning of its time. And he prays the Asr, and then one of those who pray, he would go back to his house, which is at the farthest place of Medina, while the sun is still alive. And this is the beginning of its time. As for Maghrib, the narrators forgot what was said in it. And the Shaykh said, we have already discussed its time. That its time is by the sun setting. And he sallallahu alayhi wasallam favored delaying al-Isha because its time, its favorite time is to pray it at its chosen time. Afwan. At its later, or at the, how do we say this? Akhir. To say at the later of its chosen time. You need to delay it before midnight. This is the meaning. And he used to hate sleeping before it, fearing to let it pass its time, or missing congregation with it, and to sleep more. ومخافة الاستغراق في النوم وترك صلاة الليل, and fearing to oversleep and not pray the night prayer. And he used to hate talking after the salah, indulging in conversation or talking after the salah, fearing that he would be late for Salat al-Fajr at its time, or praying it with the Jama'ah. And he used to make insiraf from Salat al-Fajr when every man knows the one who's sitting next to him, despite the fact that he recites from 60 to 100 ayah, which means, or which indicates that he used to pray it when it was dark. I think this needs explanation. I'm not satisfied. Yeah, the Sheikh has mentioned things, but we need to explain them. I can't just read and translate. طيب. When is Dhuhr time? And we need to add info to what the Sheikh is saying. What is Dhuhr time? When the sun is perpendicular, meaning right above you. When you have no shadow, your shadow is under your feet. Once it starts moving towards the west, this is Dhuhr time. So you have the sun right above you, 90 degrees. Once it starts to move, I think they call it zenith or something like that. Once it starts to move, this is called zawal. Once it starts declining, moving towards the west, this is when the salah starts. Meaning your shadow is going to be to the east, starts moving to the east. Once your shadow is the same length as your height, this is when Asr starts, all the way until your shadow is twice your length. And we have studied that until the sun is yellow, and we have explained that what they mean by yellow is orange. طيب. Some of the ulama say all of this is the Asr time, but when your shadow is twice your size, or when the sun is orange, from this time till sunset, this is waqt al-darura, the ulama say. Waqt al-darura, meaning that this time is the time of urgency for the one who is, yani he prays Asr because he was not able to pray Asr at its time. And they say one should not delay it until this part. طيب. And he will be sinning by doing so. طيب, we read in the books sunset until sunset. What is sunset? I'm asking you. What is sunset? Yani when does really Maghrib starts? How do I know that now is Maghrib? I'm looking, the sun is setting. The sun is setting. What do I do? Huh? Answer me, barakallahu fikum.
At the first setting of the sun.
At the first setting of the sun, Ali says. Sheikh Ali says at the first setting of the sun. Sheikh Ibn Munir says when the last tip of sun disappears. We have one of the sisters on YouTube saying you don't see the sun. طيب, only the horizontal ray. Orange slowly disappears. Sorry, I don't know this in English. غياب قرص الشمس. أحسنتم. نعم. أحسنتم. So everyone that said until the sun sets and until the sun disappears is correct. And the best answer is Ibn Junayd. غياب قرص الشمس is exactly what I wanted to say. And this is, by the way, what Sheikh Abdul Salam Shway'id usually says. You see the circle of the sun, the shape of the sun, when all of that sets, there is no sun, no sun. Now Maghrib time starts. See, sometimes we see the ulama, for them it's so easy that it doesn't need explanation. It doesn't need the explanation whatsoever. But for us, we're like, I wonder, what is sunset? Right? We wonder, like, what is sunset? Is it when it starts setting? Is it when what exactly? This is it exactly. Like, what is left then? What is left is the light you see in the horizon, right? The red twilight, basically, is what you see. You still see orangeness and so on. When you go out for Maghrib, you see it. There is no sun, but the light is still there. From this light until it disappears completely, this is the time for Isha. When it disappears completely. If it completely disappeared, now Isha time starts. Some of the طيب, we want to delay Salat al-Isha. For example, let's see, for women that pray at their homes, they want to delay Salat al-Isha to its best time, before midnight. When is midnight? We say, some of the ulama said that midnight, and this is the answer that I've heard from all the mashayikh that I know, is that you take the time from Maghrib all the way to Fajr. And from Maghrib all the way to Fajr. And you do what? You get half of that. Half of that is midnight. Because sometimes it might not be 12 a.m. Everybody says 12 a.m. No, sometimes it's 11. This is what the ulama said. طيب, when is Fajr? When is it? We say خروج الفجر الصادق. خروج الفجر الصادق. When the true Fajr comes in. طيب, what do you mean true Fajr? When you start seeing light. When you see light, start seeing it, this is the time. But not the what do you say, vertical? Not the vertical line, but the horizontal line. Not the vertical line. The vertical line is khuruj al-fajr al-kadhib. So if you see a line that is shooting up, it's not it. It's not the time. It is the one that's what? That's horizontal. That is horizontal. I think this is much needed. I think this is much needed to be said. And after saying this, I think every single one of you is able to know and decide if it is correct time for prayer or not. And you can measure it for yourself. This is how it is. Now when we read what the ulama said, it becomes a lot easier for us this way. And we have mentioned last class that some of the ulama said there is a barzakh, timing between Maghrib and Isha. And we said there is no such thing. As Shaykh Muhammad Hisham al-Tahiri explained, said there is no such thing as the ulama said that there is a barzakh. There is a time where Maghrib ends and it's still not Isha time, and then after 30 minutes there Isha time starts. No such a thing. Maghrib time is from Maghrib, and we know when it starts, all the way until Isha time starts. That's when Maghrib ends, meaning the red twilight has gone. طيب. طيب, when the Shaykh said that that he would go Asr, in this hadith the Messenger ﷺ would pray Asr in the beginning of its time, because a person would go all the way at the end of Medina and still the sun is alive, meaning he prayed it at the beginning of its time. طيب. And then he mentioned that the Messenger ﷺ hated. We said, Barakallahu fikum, Isha ends at midnight. After midnight, يعني this is on the saying, يعني on this saying, that after midnight is the time for qada and not for ada. And let's differentiate between qada and ada. Ada is when you do it at its time. Qada is when you do it to make up for it. طيب. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam hated speaking after the salah, except, and the Shaykh did not mention here, except speaking with one's family, wives, and so on, or speaking and entertaining and being hospitable to a guest, or in seeking ilm, as Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu ardah used to stay up revising the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. طيب. What is derived from the hadith? Number one, the Shaykh says, بيان أول أوقات الصلوات الخمس. He says to clarify or show the beginning of the 5 obligatory prayers, and that the end part of any of the times of the prayers is the beginning part for the next salah. There is nothing between them. There's nothing, no division, there's no divider, no period that divides between the two. Yani the Shaykh is saying from Fajr all the way to Dhuhr is Fajr time. And from Dhuhr all the way to Asr is Dhuhr time. And Asr to Maghrib is Asr time. Maghrib to Isha is Maghrib time. From Isha all the way to Fajr is Isha time. This is what he's saying. And in the Hashiyah, in the footnote, he said, it has been made clear to us that after Salat al-Fajr, or it has been made clear to us that between the time of Salat al-Fajr and the time for Salat al-Dhuhr is a long separating time, which is from the time that the sun rises until its zawal, zenith. And it is not from the time of Fajr, and it is not from the time of al-Dhuhr. Yani the Shaykh changed his saying. Number 2, clarifying that the Prophet ﷺ used to pray at the beginning of their time except for Isha. Na'am, I forgot to mention that when it comes to Salat al-Fajr, yani the Messenger ﷺ would pray and recite from 60 to 100 ayah. And when he says Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and then he turns around, they would see some light. Yani they would know one another. Meaning that the Messenger ﷺ started when it was darker. So at the beginning of its time. This is what is meant. These things should be mentioned so that we can actually understand what is being said. Type number 3. That the best for Isha is to delay it until the end of its chosen time, which is midnight. However, this is limited to qayyadu, this favor, that it is its favorite time, is limited. So delaying the Isha and its favorability is limited by not causing hardship for those who are praying, as we have mentioned before. Number 4, the Shaykh says, disliking to sleep before the Salah of Isha, so not to miss the Jama'ah, or that to pray it outside of its time. Number 5, disliking to speak after Salat al-Isha, so that he does not oversleep and miss night prayer or the Fajr prayer in Jama'ah. The Shaykh mentioned here, he said, however, hating to speak after it does not apply to mudhakarat al-ilm, to studying Islamic knowledge, al-ilm al-nafi', Islamic beneficial knowledge, or being occupied with that which benefits the Muslims. That which is beneficial to the Muslims. الاشتغال بمصالح المسلمين. So this is a beautiful فائدة by the Shaykh. Number 6. He's saying the one that you call al-atama. There's evidence in this for disliking calling Salat al-Isha by the name al-atama. And it has been reported in Sahih Muslim that the messenger, يعني مرفوعا, meaning to the messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم, لا يغلبنكم الأعراب على اسم صلاتكم فإنها في كتاب الله العشاء. Do not let the Bedouins influence you, يعني the desert Arabs, meaning the Bedouins, may not dominate you in respect of the name of your prayer. Beware. There is no beware. فإنها, he said, surely it is in the book of Allah, the Isha. Hadith number 644. And Ibn Umar used to get angry from this naming, yani naming it al-atama. And it has been reported, or something has been reported, that indicates that it is permissible to do so. And that the anger of calling it so is only for disliking. For in Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim, on the authority of Abu Hurairah, marfu'an, meaning that the messenger said, لو يعلمون ما في العتمة ما في العتمة والفجر. If they knew what's in the atamah and fajr, meaning Salat al-Isha wal Fajr. Let's take a brief pause here. If someone were to ask you, he said, Ya Shaykh Izhar, the messenger said, don't let the Bedouins dominate you in regards to the name of your salah. In the Quran, it is the salah of al-Isha. And then the messenger himself says, if they know what is in the atama and the fajr. He told the Sahaba not to be dominated by the Bedouins. And then he uses it? What is this? This is a contradiction. What do you say, Izhar? Where is Izhar? طيب عمر, how do we answer this? On YouTube as well, you can answer, by the way.
He's saying I think he's saying it because he's teaching the Bedouins.
He's saying it because he's teaching the Bedouin. He says, depends on who he was talking about. Was they the munafiqeen? Shaykh ibn Munir says, indicates that it's prohibition of dislikeness. Ahsant, barakallahu fik. Mumtaz. Ahsant. This is to show the permissibility of calling al-atama and to normalize it to the Bedouins. طيب. To refute them, get a point across, like when Umar said, it's a good bid'ah. It's what Ibn Munir said. It's what Shaykh Ibn Munir, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him, said. Ya ikhwa, we have to understand that when we are reading the hadith, that sometimes the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, look, the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam did not tell us this is frowned upon and this is haram. This differentiation the ulama have said in order to do what? To tell you that there is commanding not to do something, however, it is not haram. If you did it, it is not haram. And one of the biggest evidences for that is when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam commands not to do something and then he does it. You say, but why? We say, this is tashri', because he is the messenger that is sent from Allah Azza wa Jal. So when he tells us not to do something and he does it, he's telling us that it is permissible to do, however, it is better for you not to do. That's why sometimes you see some of the ulama, they say this is mansukh. this is abrogated or something like that. Yeah, for example, the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do not face or give your back to the Qibla while you are in the bathroom, yani, doing what a man does in the bathroom. Or do not urinate while standing up. And then the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam did it. So how do we answer this? Many of the ulama, by the way, and sometimes you would see this in Subul al-Salam for al-Allam al-San'ani, rahimahullah ta'ala, the explanation of Bulugh al-Maram. You see him, he says, and the command here, وَالنَّهْيُ هُنَا كَرَاهَةْ تَنْزِيهِ وَلَيْسَتْ كَرَاهَةْ تَحْرِيم. Because our Salaf al-Salih, they would use the word hated for that which is haram, and they would use the word hated for that which is not haram. So we have two types of hated. Nowadays, because of what the fuqaha told us, that hated meaning frowned upon, we can read what the Sahaba said, and we think to ourselves, we say, it is makruh, it is frowned upon. But what if you read that they said drinking alcohol is makruh? What do you say now? It's frowned upon. La. There is something wrong. Yes, there's something wrong with us, me, the reader. Me, the reader, that's what's wrong. Because I do not know the terminologies that they use. So we have karahat al-tanzih, which meaning, don't do it because you are above that. You are better than that. And look at the wisdom behind it. And by not doing it, despite the fact that it is not haram, you get rewarded, you get hasanat. Despite the fact that it is not haram, yes. But what if I did it? It's mubah. It's allowed for you. But a Muslim stays away from even that which is frowned upon. So you see, Al-Imam al-San'ani, for example, in Subul al-Salam, or other of the ulama, they say the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam naha. He gave nahi, commanded not to do it. وَفَعَلَهُ, and then he did it. To teach the ummah that this is karahat tanzih, that it is allowed. However, it is better for you not to do it. That's why he said don't do it. You understand? Barakallahu fikum. And I believe that Shaykh al-Bassam is going to quote in regards to the sayings of some of the ulama in regards to some situations, and say some of the people of ilm said it is haram to do so and so, and some of the people of ilm said this is mansukh, and some of the people of ilm said this is makruh. Why? Because the messenger commanded and then he did it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, but in many it makes total sense. In many occasions when you read the sayings of the ulama, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, the overweighing view is that it is for the karaha. It is the karaha, meaning that it is frowned upon. It's not a contradiction, ya akhwa. It is not a contradiction. This is for someone with no understanding, with a very narrow comprehension and mind would think such a thing, because such things are very normal to happen. Are very normal to happen in life and in the way Arabs speak, and even non-Arabs how they speak. Sometimes you tell someone not to do something and you do not mean it's taboo. It is right. You don't mean it's such a something that you cannot violate. Tell him don't do it. But if he did it, it's all right. However, it's better for him not to do it. This is totally normal. And the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he is the one who is delivering the message, he must show us that it is what? That it is not haram. So when the Messenger ﷺ says and then does, to show to his ummah that this is allowed. But some of the ulama, they say what? And look at the, when the scholars speak, they leave you speechless. Some of the ulama say, yes, the Messenger ﷺ commanded not to urinate while standing. Yet, أتى سباطة قوم, and he urinated while standing up. Subata meaning the place for trash. This is another hadith. And he urinated while standing. Some of the ulama said, La. The Messenger, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us room to do what? To put and exert effort and invest time to get rewarded. Not everything doesn't need any effort. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us things to put time in and to exert effort to reward us for this time as well as these efforts, the bounty of Allah Azza wa Jal, and multiply them by folds. And to be dependent upon your niyyah and what your niyyah is. And Allahu Akbar, the bounty of Allah Azza wa Jal is vast. So some of the ulama said, La, no. The Messenger ﷺ was not showing us that it is allowed. What he said takes precedence over what he did. Say, how? They say, the Messenger ﷺ might have been in a condition where he could not sit down. That's why. He had a wound, for example, in his leg. He's not able to sit down. And some of the people of ilm said that if he sat down, he might have the circumstances where that there would be a bigger mafsada, bigger evil. He would let the najasa come back to him. Or let the najasa, you understand? Here you see how the people of ilm, understand the nusus. Understand the nusus. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that the mujtahid, the hakim, the one who's reaching the ruling, if he makes his ijtihad and he was wrong, he gets rewarded once. Bounty. If Allah did not leave any room for ijtihad, we don't get this bounty if we're wrong, right? And he said, if he is correct, he gets double the reward. More bounty. Look at the wisdom of Allah Azza wa Jal. So someone can come and say, why isn't it clear from the first place? Why do we need to exert effort and reach? We say, Ya akhi, don't you want all of this? Don't you want all of this bounty? Don't you want all of these rewards? Also, Ya akhwa, this gives you shaghaf, this gives you this fire inside of you that you want to learn, you want to know, you want to reach, you want to research. Right? And the ulama say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has diversified for us acts of worship because as a human being you get bored. If you were just to do one act of worship, you would get bored. Your nafs would get bored. That's why you have the salah and the recitation of the Quran and the tasbih and giving into charity and helping one another and fighting in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal and seeking ilm and so much and doing hajj and doing umrah and Allahu Akbar. Why? You diversify. There's nashat. You get nashat by doing so. Yani you get refreshed and you get zeal and enthusiasm. And not just that, there are types of people and there are things that suit certain people. For example, Khalid ibn al-Walid, jihad in the way of Allah Azza wa Jal. Jihad and battles and so on. Ibn Abbas, Abu Hurairah, memorizing the hadith and teaching the hadith. And you have people for certain things. And when you do not have this diversity in every aspect, how would humanity thrive in every aspect of its life? Ya akhwa, dinullah azim. The religion of Allah Azza wa Jal is, how can you compare anything to the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal? These are wisdoms, ya ikhwa, that we might not know. And some of my students, the adolescent ones at school that I teach, at the ages 15, 18, 17, and so on, sometimes they ask about wisdom. They say, what is the reason? I want to know, what is the benefit? We tell them, look, you might go to a alim and ask him about the wisdom and he would not know. But another alim, another scholar might know. So if you ask somebody and he does not know the wisdom behind it, that does not mean that there is no wisdom behind it. The only thing that it means is that that scholar that you have asked, or the 10 scholars that you have asked, do not know the wisdom behind this issue of the religion. So do not dismiss wisdom just because you did not know it, or the one you asked did not know it. There is wisdom behind it, but maybe we did not reach it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. So learn. Thumma learn. Meaning then learn. Then learn that if you do not know the wisdom behind something, you accept it and you submit and you do not deny that there is wisdom behind it. Okay, ya ikhwa? طيب, let's go back to the book. This is crucial for us to learn. طيب. So here the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said what? Don't let the Bedouins dominate you in terms of the name of the Atama and call it the Isha. In the book of Allah Azza wa Jal, It is called the Isha. So the Messenger ﷺ is teaching us what? To use the terminologies of the Quran. This is what the Messenger is teaching us. To use the terminology of the Quran. And that's why you see Al-Imam Al-Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala and Ibn Uthaymin and others from the ulama, when they speak, sometimes they quote, even though they're not saying the ayah itself, but they are using the same terminologies, because it is what? It is favored to do so. And here the Messenger ﷺ said what? فَإِنَّهَا فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ الْعِشَاء. It's in the book of Allah, al-Isha, meaning use the words, the terminologies in the Quran. And then he himself said al-Atama. Why did he say? Because he wants us to understand that it is not haram to say al-Atama. It is not haram. It's allowed for you to say al-Atama, but you as a person, you should speak. Your terminologies should be taken from the Quran and the Sunnah. Why not take them from the Quran? And then he used it himself to show you it's allowed. You see how there are no contradictions? No contradictions, alhamdulillah. They go together, absolute 100% wisdom. There's even wisdom behind it. There are even lessons to be learned behind it. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Always the Quran and the Sunnah, always, and the Sunnah going together. No contradictions. طيب. Number 7, al-Allama al-Bassam says to pray Salat al-Fajr at night time, so that when you make insiraf from it, that a person would recognize the one sitting next to him, despite the fact that he recited 60 to 100 ayah. طيب. Ya ikhwa, there is a mistranslation by some of the translators. They translate al-insiraf أو ينصرف من صلاته. They do not translate it as ينفتل. No. They translate it as he leaves. He leaves يعني the salah. He leaves the masjid. لا. الانصراف انصراف الوجه يعني turning with your انصراف الوجه يعني and والصدر يعني والجسم, meaning يعني he's turning his face and يعني what does the and his body. يعني now the imam does what? If you are the imam, what do you do? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And then you face the qibla, still sitting. You do not make insiraf yet. You say astaghfirullah out loud, huh? Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Allahumma anta as-salam wa minka as-salam. Tabarakta ya dhal jalali wal ikram. And then you make insiraf. Meaning do what? You just turn around and look at the congregation. This is insiraf. They translate it to what? That he leaves. He leaves the masjid. La. So astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Allahumma anta as-salam wa minka as-salam. Tabarakta ya dhal jalali wal ikram. And then he would turn around. This is the sunnah. This is what the messenger did. So when you read the translation, you have missed the sunnah now. You think he would, you don't understand anymore. You're like, he leaves? He leaves. This is the sunnah. He leaves the masjid? La. This is a mistranslation. So pay attention to such a thing in translated texts, and shows you the importance of learning Arabic, or the importance of learning from someone that knows Arabic, and not just knows it, actually is able to understand what the people of ilm mean. And also when you find mistakes and so on, you fix it and you teach those around you. طيب. Number 8, the bounty or the merit of prolonging recitation in Fajr prayer, Salat al-Subh, morning prayer, meaning Fajr prayer, because he recited 60 to 100 ayah. Number 9, that the one who is asked about knowledge and of something that he has no knowledge of, he does not know, that he should not hesitate to say, I do not know. Because to make fatwa based on ignorance is to claim something in the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, and to belie, to lie on behalf of Allah Azza wa Jal, to lie on behalf of the deen. And the person of knowledge, a alim, when he stops, he does not answer, he does not know. He stops answering that which he does not know, is not something that belittles him or a deficiency in him. In fact, it is a great honor for him. For he has tawarra', and he has feared al-khabt an al-khabt bila ilm, to answer without knowledge, and that he humbled himself and stopped at the limits of his knowledge. طيب. Then al-Allam al-Bassam says fa'idah, benefit. If talking after Isha is disliked, while it is impermissible, innocent, allowed speech, then what do we say about those who spend their nights in listening to filthy music? Meaning that all music is filthy. That's what he means. Al-Aghani al-Khali'a, هذه صفة. Not that there's a good part and a bad part. No. It says filthy music. Yani as if he is saying the filth which is called music. And taking a look at magazines and novels that are filthy. And those who were inflicted with the fitna of movies, of al-manadhir al-mukhjila wal-aflam al-athima, yani to look at these things that are shameful, and movies which are sinful, wal-al'ab al-mulhiya, and games which are yani makes you preoccupied, yani diverts your attention, mulhi. As-sadda an dhikrillah, that prevents you from mentioning Allah, wa an as-salah, and to pray until Fajr time comes near, and the time for descending mercy is here. And the only thing that wakes them up from their slumber is the heat of the sun and the voices of those who sell things on the, at his time, the Shaykh, people used to scream, in the streets, they would scream, they're selling something. There would be, I have witnessed this, by the way, in the 90s. You would have in some countries as well, in the 2090s as well, you would have what? You would have someone who's down the streets and he is screaming, yelling, he's selling a certain kind of food, selling a certain kind of drink, he would be yelling it. And he has like sometimes he would have like a donkey or a horse, or sometimes he would just have a little shop where he would be screaming what he's selling. Anyway, and he says, and the motion of life. And they have abandoned the Salah of Fajr in congregation. Or maybe they have abandoned, abandoned praying it at time. أسف شديد وغم قاتل. He says أسف meaning anger. ورجع موسى إلى قومه غضبان أسفا, meaning angry, as in the ayah. ورجع موسى إلى قومه غضبان أسفا. أسف شديد meaning great anger. وغم قاتل, and lethal sorrow. Sorrow that makes someone as if making him die, or would result in his death. Upon people which their lives have become upon this ugly habit, and the shaitan is playing with them, has manipulated them, so he prevented them from that which is beneficial to them to that which is harmful, and led them to that which is harmful. So these type of people, he said, meaning these type of people, we are afraid that they are considered from those that have forgotten Allah, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgets about them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made them forget about themselves, afwan. And by the way, when we say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgotten about them, meaning that Allah turned away from them. لا يضل ربي ولا ينسى, as in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not mistaken and does not forget. However, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions forgetting in the Quran, not that Allah forgets and needs to remember, a'udhu billah, but meaning that he turns away from them. He turns away from them. طيب, anyway, so they have forgotten Allah Azza wa Jal, so Allah Azza wa Jal made them forget themselves. So he has struck a curtain of heedlessness upon them, so they do not remember except when remembrance is of no use to them. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, meaning after death. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. We seek refuge by Allah. So I mentioned to you that talking to your wife and your family is an exception, and studying ilm is an exception, and because I'm looking at my notes, and I think I did not mention the wife. I said with one's family. So the exceptions that I made, I told you to entertain a guest, hospitality and so on, to study, مذاكرة العلم, and then to speak to one's wife and family. طيب. Even though we have taken just one hadith, but wallahi, how beneficial is this hadith? And how beneficial is the explanation of the Shaykh? And how much did we remember to remind ourselves and you and advise ourselves and you regarding these very beneficial topics that have to do with our greatest treasure, priceless, that cannot be described with words, the bliss that cannot be even counted, which is the bliss of Allah and the deen of Allah, Islam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala أن يهدينا ويهدي ضال المسلمين. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا. اللهم اغفر لنا ولوالدينا ولوالديهم ولذرياتهم ولمشايخنا وعلمائنا وولاة أمرنا وللمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات. اللهم أصلحنا وأصلح لنا أهلينا وأزواجنا وذرياتنا. اللهم أصلح لنا ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا، وأصلح لنا دنيانا التي فيها معاشنا، وأصلح لنا آخرتنا التي فيها معادنا، واجعل الحياة زيادة لنا في كل خير، واجعل الموت راحة لنا من كل شر. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. وصل اللهم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.